What if I told you that the most dangerous red flags in relationships aren't the ones you can see? They're the invisible ones, the silent killers that slowly drain your happiness, your confidence, and even your sense of self. And the worst part? Most people don't realize it until they're already trapped, wondering, how did I get here? Why do I feel so alone, even when I'm with them? Is it me, or is something really wrong? Let's get one thing straight. Toxic relationships don't always start with screaming, cheating, or obvious abuse. They start with small, almost unnoticeable patterns. Patterns that psychologists say can be even more dangerous because they creep in so slowly you don't even realize what's happening until it's too late. If you miss these warning signs, you could end up in a relationship that destroys your mental health, erodes your self-worth, and leaves you feeling emotionally exhausted. But here's the good news. Psychology gives us the tools to recognize and stop these patterns before they take over your life. In this video, I'm breaking down 5 subtle yet devastating warning signs that relationship experts, therapists, and psychological research all agree you should never overlook. Because when you know what to look for, you take back your power, you reclaim your happiness, and most importantly, you stop wasting time on someone who doesn't deserve you. And trust me, number 5, it's the biggest trap most people fall into, and it's ruining relationships without anyone realizing it. So stay with me till the end, because this might just save you from years of heartache. Let's dive in. Number 1, you feel more alone in the relationship than when you were single. Have you ever sat right next to someone, yet felt like they were a million miles away? Imagine this. You're lying in bed next to your partner. You turn to share something that's been weighing on your heart, but instead of a warm response, you're met with a distracted, or worse, silence. You stare at the ceiling, feeling a lump in your throat. This person was once your safe space. Now, they feel like a stranger. Psychology says loneliness in a relationship is more painful than being single. Because when you're alone, you expect solitude. But when you're with someone who's supposed to love you, yet they make you feel invisible, it slowly breaks you from the inside. A study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that emotional neglect is one of the leading causes of relationship dissatisfaction. In fact, researchers say emotional neglect can be even more damaging than physical distance. Red flag moment. If you constantly feel like you're reaching out and getting nothing in return, if your conversations have turned into short, cold replies like "K" or "Okay," you're not in a relationship. You're in an emotional desert, dying of thirst while they act like they don't see it. The silent killer, emotional disconnection. This disconnection doesn't happen overnight. It sneaks in little by little. One ignored text, one unacknowledged feeling, one moment where you needed them, but they just weren't there. And then one day, you realize you're lonelier with them than you were without them. How to fix it before it's too late, the emotional check-in technique. Set aside 5 minutes every day, just 5 minutes to ask each other, how are you really feeling today? No phones, no distractions, just pure connection. Studies show that couples who make emotional check-ins a habit report higher satisfaction and deeper bonds. But here's the harsh truth. If you try this, and your partner constantly avoids it, refuses to engage, or makes you feel guilty for needing connection, they're telling you something. And you have to listen. Because loneliness isn't just a feeling, it's a warning sign. And if you ignore it, it leads straight into the next red flag, where your emotions are not only ignored, but dismissed entirely. Stay with me, because this next one is even more dangerous. Number 2, they dismiss your feelings instead of acknowledging them. Picture this. You finally build up the courage to open up about something that's been bothering you. Your heart pounds as you speak, hoping for comfort, understanding, at the very least, a listening ear. But instead, you're met with a sigh, an eye roll, or worse, words that cut deeper than silence. You're overreacting. You always make a big deal out of nothing. God, you're so sensitive. In that moment, something inside you shifts. You start questioning yourself. Am I really overreacting? Maybe I'm too emotional. Maybe I should just keep things to myself. Stop right there. If this sounds familiar, you're not crazy and you're not being too sensitive. What you're experiencing is emotional invalidation, one of the most damaging behaviors in relationships, and the science behind it. Dr. John Gottman, one of the world's leading relationship psychologists, calls this stonewalling, a toxic behavior where one partner shuts down emotionally instead of engaging. His research found that stonewalling is one of the 4 biggest predictors of divorce with over 90% accuracy. Why is this so dangerous? Because when your feelings are constantly dismissed, your brain starts adapting to it. A study published in the journal Emotion found that repeated invalidation actually rewires your brain, making you suppress emotions to avoid conflict. But here's the dark truth. Bottling up emotions doesn't make them disappear. It just makes them explode later in anxiety, resentment, or even depression. Let's flip the script. Imagine a child running to their parent, crying because they scraped their knee. Instead of comforting them, the parent says, "Oh, stop crying, it's just a scratch. Toughen up." That child learns that their pain doesn't matter. Fast forward to adulthood, they find themselves in a relationship where they're told their feelings are too much. See the pattern? And this connects directly to our next sign, because when your emotions are constantly dismissed, something even more dangerous starts happening. Here's how to take back your voice. Use the "I feel because" method. Instead of saying, "You never listen to me," try, "I feel unheard when my concerns are brushed off because it makes me feel like my emotions don't matter." Watch how they respond. A loving partner will want to understand you. A toxic partner will double down, making you feel like the problem. That's your red flag. If they consistently dismiss you, take it seriously. Emotional neglect is just as harmful as physical neglect. Your feelings deserve space. And if they won't give you that, it might be time to walk away. Question for you. Have you ever had your emotions dismissed in a relationship? How did it make you feel? Drop a comment below. I read every single one. And now let's move to something even more dangerous. The moment you stop feeling safe to express yourself at all. Number 3, you're walking on eggshells, the silent relationship killer. Have you ever felt like you're trapped in your own relationship? Like every word you say, every move you make might set off an invisible landmine? You rehearse your words before speaking. You hesitate before sharing your thoughts. You feel like you're constantly being tested, and one wrong step could ruin everything. That's not love. That's emotional control. The psychological trap, why this happens. A groundbreaking study from the American Psychological Association revealed that people in emotionally stressful relationships experience higher levels of anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues like high blood pressure and weakened immunity. Psychologists call this hypervigilance conditioning. Over time, your brain learns to anticipate conflict, making you overly cautious even when there's no immediate danger. You're not just walking on eggshells, you're mentally trapped in survival mode. The fear of speaking up. Imagine this. You want to suggest a simple weekend getaway, but instead of feeling excited, your stomach knots up. You replay the possible reactions in your mind. Will they get annoyed? Will they think I'm too demanding? So you stay silent. You tell yourself it's not worth the argument. But deep down, you know this isn't right. You weren't always like this. You used to be confident, expressive, but now you've become a version of yourself that tiptoes through conversations just to avoid conflict. That's not peace. That's fear disguised as love. The hidden danger, how this slowly destroys you. The longer you suppress your thoughts, the more you lose your sense of self. Your confidence fades. Your happiness feels like it depends on their mood. You stop recognizing yourself. Psychologists warn that emotional suppression leads to an identity crisis, where you start prioritizing their comfort over your own mental well-being. But here's the shocking part. Most people in this situation don't even realize it's happening until they're completely drained. The breakthrough. How to escape the fear cycle. Step 1, recognize the pattern. The first step is acknowledging that filtering your words out of fear is not normal. If you feel like you can't express yourself without consequences, that's a serious red flag. Step 2, test the waters. Instead of avoiding small disagreements, try expressing your thoughts in a neutral, calm way. Observe how your partner reacts. A healthy relationship allows room for opinions without emotional explosions. Step 3, rebuild your voice. Start journaling your thoughts daily. This helps you see how often you're holding back. If you notice a pattern of silence, that's your mind begging you to reclaim your voice. Step 4, seek support. If you've been walking on eggshells for too long, it's time to reach out. whether it's a trusted friend, a therapist, or even an online support group. If someone truly loves you, they will want to hear your voice, not silence it. A relationship should feel like home, not a battlefield. And this leads us to the next critical warning sign, the one that can be even more dangerous if ignored. When boundaries are treated like a threat. Stay with me because this next one might just change how you see your relationship forever. Number 4, they turn your boundaries into guilt traps, and that's emotional manipulation. Imagine this. You've had a long, exhausting day. All you want is an hour of peace, maybe to read, maybe to just sit in silence and breathe. You express this to your partner, expecting understanding, but instead you hear, "Oh, so now you don't love me anymore? I guess I'm just not important to you. Wow, I didn't know needing space meant pushing me away." At first, it seems subtle, like they're just expressing hurt, but over time, you start second-guessing yourself. Every time you try to set a boundary, they flip the script and make you feel like the villain. This is not love. This is emotional control disguised as affection. The psychology behind it. According to Dr. Henry Cloud, author of Boundaries, healthy relationships thrive on mutual respect, but toxic partners see boundaries as walls blocking their control. Instead of respecting your needs, they manipulate your emotions to make you feel guilty for having them at all. Why does this work? Because as humans, we crave connection. Our brains are wired to avoid rejection. When guilt is used as a weapon, it triggers our deepest fear, losing love. So we cave in, we abandon our boundaries, and slowly we lose ourselves in the process. How to break free from this emotional trap? Recognize the pattern. If saying I need some time for myself leads to emotional blackmail, that's a red flag. Guilt should never be the price of setting boundaries. Stand firm. Instead of justifying or over-explaining, respond with calm confidence. Taking time for myself doesn't mean I love you any less. It means I need to recharge so I can be my best self in this relationship. Watch their reaction. A supportive partner will understand. A manipulative one will push harder, trying different tactics, sulking, passive aggression, or even silent treatment. This is a test. Will you hold your ground or will you give in? Ask yourself, is this a pattern? If guilt tripping happens every time you set a boundary, it's not a misunderstanding, it's manipulation. Because here's the brutal truth. A relationship that punishes you for having boundaries isn't a relationship. It's a slow erosion of your identity. How this connects to the next red flag. And this leads us to the next silent danger, the exhausting feeling of being the only one making an effort. If you're the one constantly bending, giving in, and sacrificing your needs, what happens when you stop? Do they step up or do they step away? Stay with me, because this next sign could be the one that's draining your emotional energy the most. Number 5, you're the only one fighting for the relationship, and it's draining you. Imagine this. You wake up and instinctively reach for your phone because it's always you who sends the first text. You plan every date night. You check in when they're upset, but when you need comfort, silence. Slowly, you start to wonder, am I in this relationship alone? This is the kind of exhaustion that doesn't just drain your energy, it crushes your soul. Psychologists call this unreciprocated emotional labor. A study from the University of Texas found that when one partner puts in significantly more effort than the other, it leads to emotional burnout, resentment, and even physical stress symptoms like anxiety and fatigue. But why does this happen? Because love should feel like a dance, not a desperate chase. The dangerous psychological trap. Your brain is wired for reinforcement loops. When you keep investing effort without return, your mind tricks you into thinking, maybe if I try harder, they'll finally see my worth. But in reality, the more you chase, the more they withdraw. The eye-opening test. Try this right now. Stop. Just stop. Stop initiating. Stop reaching out first. Stop carrying the emotional weight of the relationship alone. Now observe. Do they notice your absence? Do they reach out? Do they make an effort to keep the connection alive? If their interest fades the moment you stop trying, the harsh truth is, you weren't in a relationship. You were in a one-sided illusion. And here's the gut-punching reality. Love isn't something you should have to beg for. Real connection is mutual, not something you have to earn through exhaustion. Here's the hard truth. The most dangerous part of a toxic relationship isn't the fights, the silence, or the emotional exhaustion. It's the moment you start convincing yourself that this is normal. But it's not normal. and it's not love. Real love feels safe, not suffocating. It lifts you up, not drains you. It makes you feel heard, not invisible. If any of these signs hit home, don't brush them aside, because the longer you ignore them, the harder they become to escape. Ask yourself, if nothing changes, will you still be happy in this relationship a year from now? The first step isn't always leaving, it's seeing things clearly. Start small. Pay attention. Speak up. Set a boundary, and most importantly, believe that you deserve better. Because you do. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt trapped in a relationship like this? What was the moment you realized something had to change? Share your story in the comments. I read every single one. Your comment might just be the wake-up call someone else desperately needs. If this video helped you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who might need to hear this today. And if you want more deep, psychology-backed insights to help you build stronger, healthier relationships, because the best version of love, the one you truly deserve, starts with knowledge. You're stronger than you think, and your story isn't over yet.